I'm Rob Grimm from RGG Edu, and I want to show you the most important tool in my photo studio, and it's not a piece of photo gear, it's software. It's BlinkBid, and it's what I use to do all of my estimating, track my production, and create all of my invoices. Now, I've been using BlinkBid since it first came out, but prior to that, I was using kind of a hodgepodge. I had used a series of software that was really made for PC that didn't work on my Mac so well, it was really clunky. And for a period of time, I even used Illustrator to create all my estimates and my invoices. My designer had kind of set me up that way, so my invoices looked really pretty, but it was clunky and a nightmare and so hard to track. When I switched to BlinkBid, I really, for the first time, as a businessman, was able to get a good handle on my money. Not just the money coming into the studio, but where I needed to place expenses in the estimate portion of the work to make sure that I didn't leave anything on the table. If you are missing some of that while you're estimating it and you win the job, the client's gonna hold you to those numbers. You're gonna wind up not only losing money, you're gonna eat costs as well, and you don't wanna do that. Let me give you a really quick kind of walkthrough of BlinkBid and its interface, how it works. This is my homepage, and up at the top I have several different tabs. I have my jobs, I have the address book where I can put in information on clients, and I also have reports. Now this is one of my favorite things because this is where you really get a look at your usage license, your profit and loss, whether you've won jobs, whether you've lost jobs. All of that is incredible data that you can use to make decisions to estimate better in the future and hopefully increase the amount of jobs that you win. So let's go ahead and actually we're gonna jump in. We're gonna go to My Jobs and we're gonna select this Japanese whiskey brand. Now this is something fictional that we've created, but I want you to get an understanding of what one of my jobs really and truly looks like. I've gone through and filled most of this out. And one of the things I want to show you is how easy it is to add things to your job so that you do account for anything. When I first start a job, I come into this section on the right, and this is really where you build all your information. This is where I can put in the entirety of the job description because I want to spell out exactly what the client's going to get and what I'm going to deliver. Setting those expectations is incredibly important. Terms. This is one of the most important things you can do as well. Again, this is a legal spelling out of what you are going to deliver to the client, what you expect in return for fees, and how long that client has to license your images. While we're creating images for people, we are in fact licensing them to them for a very specific use and a specific period of time. Something super, super important. So the license is so important. Now, while this information is showing up here, when I go into my settings, that's where I actually build the license. So if I go into terms, you can see right here I've got estimate terms, I've got invoice terms, I also have custom usage, and I have terms and conditions. Now you can use all defaults, just hit use default, you can clear it out and you can put in your own terms depending on what you want to write. In all honesty, BlinkBid has great terms. I use their default terms, I just customize them a little bit, and I'm in good shape. Now let's go back to the job that we're working on for this Japanese whiskey brand. Again, I've gone through and I've added all this stuff, but let me tell you quickly how I do this. When I build an estimate from the very start, I immediately go down the entirety of the list and I look at everything I need. I'm gonna need additional usage fees. I'm gonna need my photographer fee. I'm gonna need pre-production. I'm going to need maybe usage fees versus additional usage fees depending on what I'm really going for. There's an entire section for casting. Every single thing I need either is already preset in here or I can manage it by adding it myself. Now I can go down to the very bottom. Click Add More Items, and I can pick any category. Let's say I want to do crew. And I can hit the plus button, I can add a new line item, and that will show up. This is a fantastic thing to make sure that the way you run a production is really going to show up in your estimate. Everybody works a little bit differently, so that gives you the ability to really customize your entire estimate. So if we look at this now, one of the things I'll also show you is that I put in additional information on every single line item. My pre-production is for the studio pre-light and bottle prep. This is going to be a combination of a location and studio shoot where we're shooting on location to get backplates. Those backplates are going to be made into Duratrans that we're going to bring into the studio, and then we're going to create environmental sets that look like they're on location, but they're actually shot in a studio. So having this additional little line item really helps me define what the client is getting and why I have these people on there. For example, I have two different types of image usage here. The first one is going to be just for the bottles on white, because this job is divided into two parts. We've got bottles on white, and we've got these really environmental shots. Now, the usage for the bottles on white, to me, is different than these full-blown hero shots. So I priced them at $1,200 each. The quantity is 3. All of this is really spelled out. And in the memo, I put for bottle images on white. Very clear, it's brief, but it gives the client the exact expectation. Now my hero images, the environmental shots, are different. I'm pricing them at $2,500 each. And again, in the memo, I put for hero environmental images, add a little period, boom, hit save. That information is very accessible for the client. They can read not only what that line item is, but exactly what it's for, because sometimes they're divided out. So now we get down into my crew. We can put everybody that I need in there. I need my first assistant for 5 days, which includes the pre-light, the same with the second assistant. My production assistant, I'm not going to use on the pre-light. I'm only going to use on the location and studio days. So I make that note, and that's why there's a difference in the quantity. There's only 4 here, where the other assistants have 5. Again, I like to spell everything out so the client doesn't have questions. Now, I've got my producer and prop stylist and also a drink stylist in here because I'm going to use them for 1 day in the studio. Now, one thing that you can do is reorder this stuff. This, to me, was one of the greatest changes that BlinkBid made, because I actually do like to have a logical order for the way everybody appears in this. And I've got the ability just to kind of move things around. I'm going to lump my stylist together. And last thing, I'm going to bring my production assistant way down to the bottom. So additionally, I can account for everything. Digital capture fees, digital imaging fees. I do notice that there's one thing I'm missing, and that is digital printing. Now, I want to add digital printing because I'm going to make Duratrans. So I'm going to hit digital prints. I'm just going to X that out. I'm going to go in here now, digital prints. I need 3 of them. These are going to be for the back plates, and I'm going to put in $350 per. And for back plate, Duratrans, images. Again, now that client understands why I have that line item in there. It's just not just a digital print. Why would they need a digital print? Now they understand exactly what it's for. So we're going to go in and we're going to add insurance costs as well, because I want to make sure that I account for that. So we're going to be in the studio for 2 days, and I priced that at $150. My per location, also we're going to be out there for 2 days. I'm actually going to bump that to $225. It's on location, so there's a little bit more risk. Craft services. Want to make sure that I account for that. I'm going to add $400 a day. We're going to have a good sized crew, so I want to make sure everybody is covered. Miscellaneous. Again, I want to cover all my days. I'm just going to put in, $75 a day. Last couple of things, we're going to go in here and we're going to account for backgrounds and surfaces. So I've got 3 main sets. I'm going to put in $150 per. Whoops. And surfaces, let's also do 3. And I think I'm going to add $125 per. That's it. Digital transfer, this is time to manage all the transfer of the files. And I'm going to do that at $125. And that's it. So the reason BlinkBid is so important to me, I've now gone through absolutely every single line item. I've gone through this list and I've thought about everything that I need to make the production run smoothly. Then I've gone in and I've assigned all the values to it. This gives me the perfect negotiating tool with the client. If they're concerned about this being too expensive or there are line items they don't understand, we can very clearly go in and talk about anything that we need. Now, one of the things that's also really great about this, if you go to the stack of papers or the hamburger that people call it, you can move this into production. First of all, we can print this in any way that we need to. We can create advances. We can do all kinds of stuff. But we can also transfer this into production. And the reason why this is so important is now you've really got the ability to look at your actual budget and you can put in receipts easily. You can look at any line item, you can add a receipt, and you can know exactly what that job is costing you as you're going through it. So again, this has really been a big change for me. With other programs that I was using and even the Illustrator file, there was really no good way for me to track the cost during the production. I would have a job folder that I'd stick receipts in. This is really great because I can actually input the receipts into BlinkBid. I can get a nice, clear, concise running tally, run reports, and know exactly where the money is on the job. Then I can go ahead when we've completed the job and we can transfer this to the invoice. And now we're ready to actually ship this out to the client. So BlinkBid has given me the ability to really look at the funding for the studio from the very inset, which is the estimate, knowing exactly what it cost me to do a job and transferring those costs all the way through to the final invoice. And what's really beautiful about it, I've got constant communication with the client and I know exactly where the money is.